I'm freaking 70, and it took me 70 freaking years to be able to say, I love life. I choose life.
How would you encourage or give yourself or others, for instance, how did you give yourself or how would you like to give others permission to be complex? Because your story is so fascinating. You've done so many things. You've worn so many hats. You've helped people in a lot of different realms of life. So yeah, what paradigm shift would you want them to have to just be like permission to be or whatever?
Well, that's not dependent on me. And thank you for thinking I have value enough to do anything like that. But every person has to do that for themselves. They have to search. They have to do their hero's journey. They have to do their failures. No one can fail as well as we do individually. it's we're constantly failing and succeeding. We're constantly alive and we're dead. We're constantly living and dying. We're here and not here. It's this yin yang thing where we're in bipolar states constantly, and really all you really have is right now, this moment. That's the only thing that really exists. Everything else is illusion. So the past is an illusion that you decide to hold on to. The future is an illusion that you're actively creating and hoping will occur. And at this instant, this electrical thing that's called living in life, it's only happening right now. So the worry about the other stuff is all pointless, although we all do it. So yeah, everybody knows what they need to do, I think, and they just need to start doing it. I can't live your life or anyone else's, and I barely live my own well, at times. So I'm going to be the sage advice giver? No, but I'll be there to help anyone that is experiencing their journey and evolving as a result of it. And you're always learning something new. Someone turned me on to Internal Family Systems by Dr. Richard Schwartz. And that it's almost like multiple personalities where you have these people within yourselves, the exiles, and the like a protector. And I did just this week. I started boning up on it and did some meditation type stuff with it. And I tell you, it's mind blowing. That we have. Everyone's experienced trauma. Some people, I guess, are unlucky enough not to have it, but when because it seems like this bad thing that you should never have. But it's constant, man. It's like incoming all the time,
Right.
like, and I listen to my friends that are having problems. I'm like, man, who would do something like that to you? But they're doing it, and they're living the trauma and they're chewing on stuff and exhausting all their present time moment, by chewing, mentally chewing on the problem. And when you do that, there's none of you left for anything else. You're like absorbed in the past or this issue, and there's none of you right here now. There's no be here now. The only be here now there is chewing on a problem. And you're kind of living, but you're really a slave to that thought. You might as well be handcuffed to the process you're undergoing. And man, that's a weird thing that we all go through. Can be a prison planet
For
because
real.
because
For
of that.
real. Yeah, and a lot of the things you're touching on, like, multiple times throughout this conversation, I've just been kinda going back to a book that I read by Eckhart Tolle, The
Yeah,
Power of Now, and he's got
yeah,
other works, and I think I've listened to some of his other works, but just the way that he describes just, "This is the moment, this is where life is." If you're worried about something in the future, if you're guilty about something in the past or, remorseful or whatever, that is all just stealing your ability to be in this present moment where you are infinite. You are like this pillar that can connect into so many different realms, into so many different spaces. But every time that we allow ourselves to get trapped, to chew, like you described, on these other things, we're giving away so much of our freedom and our power and our joy that we can experience in this present moment with this beautiful gift that we have in our life.
Yeah. I had a couple times where I thought I was gonna be killed or I thought I was gonna be dead. It looked imminent, microseconds away from
Mhm.
being dead. And
Are
somehow
you
I got
comfortable with sharing the story of that situation, of what was going on there, or any one of those, or
I'll give you one, and
okay.
it's the easy one, it's more palatable than the others, but I was on a motorcycle and riding at night with one of my buddies who was behind me, and I just finished racing school, so I thought I was hot stuff,
Mhm.
and I was in a hilly part of Missouri going to Kansas City, and it was hilly like this, up and down. And I was stuck behind this car at night, some kind of Vega or something. It was just like, and they were like doing like 50, and the speed limit was 55. And of course, I wanted to be doing like 80. And it was constant hills. So I was trying to look for a window for me to pass them. And I thought, well, I better, if I'm going to do this, I have no visibility. I better be smart. So I started to look in the trees to my left to see if I could see them light up from headlights coming towards me. And watching the trees and the canopy of the trees for a while, and it was all dark. There was no headlight lights going through the things like you would expect. So I'm coming to the apex, the crest of a hill, and I thought I'm gonna make my move. So, and fast, I had a Hayabusa, have a Hayabusa. And I opened it up, I went to pass, and I'm in the other lane, and as soon as I crested the hill, there was a car right there in front of me, you know, and my buddy was on a gold wing behind me, behind that other person, and, I had, like, seriously, a microsecond to act, and I
Mhm.
counter steered, and I pushed down on my right handlebar, and it, like, threw me into the lane, and out of my peripheral vision, I could see those poor people in the car with their eyes as big as dish plates. They were just like, and I could
Right.
see the "oh fuck" thing coming out of their mouths.
Mhm.
And weirdly, it was like I knew I had just escaped death. It was like extremely certain, but I guess not because I'm still here. And at that same instant, incredible, incredible peace and serenity enveloped me. You know, I was completely in the moment. I'm tingling right now just talking about it. Like I could see the trees, the darkness in the trees, and there's no noise. There's no like mental chat, monkey minds. There's no chatter going on in my head. I wasn't chewing on anything. I was just totally there on my busa in the night, quietly, with the wind passing by me, like a meditative enlightenment state. My buddy, however, filled his helmet screaming my name because he saw my death happening, so that's how
Mhm.
real it was. And we kept on riding because I didn't wanna talk to anybody after this.
Mhm.
We went probably another 10 miles or something, and there was a gas station. I pulled in, and, I looked at him, and he looked at me, and we both absorbed what happened, and he goes, curse word, I thought you were dead," and I was like I couldn't even speak, I was still floating in that thing. Months later, I was my buddy who owns a BMW dealership in Cape told me that, "Hey, remember that story you told me? Someone came in the store the other day and said, one time we were going through Highway 21 or whatever it is, and this guy came over there. We thought we were gonna kill him," and I was so grateful for that story because I felt sorry for them because they had to be traumatized. The adrenaline, the
Mhm.
fear, the realization that you nearly killed someone. So, you're hot rodding it. It has consequences, whether you know it or not. You do that stuff on a racetrack where you're the only one there, not where you're going to involve someone else's life and give them a story for the rest of their life. So, that taught me, I knew that, lesson before from some other practices that I had done, but it was never as real and as long lasting, as that. And so it's a very powerful thing. And Eckhart Tolle talks about that stuff as well, because it happened to him through poverty and being homeless and, being at the end of his ropes, were realized, that moment where you let go. And he's writing a book, and now he has an institute where he's teaching people that lesson, because it's such a worthwhile, valuable lesson for us all to know.
So
Yeah,
fascinating. So fascinating. Thank you for sharing that story.
sure.
For sure, and I'm definitely glad that you're here in so many ways. It's
Me too.
been a huge pleasure to meet you, interact with you in class, ask questions from you, borrow your stuff. You know, all of the things has just been really I'm very
Yeah,
grateful for.
yeah, I enjoy knowing you and working with you, as well. You're a great person to work with and to share a shop with and to maker space, co-create things. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and next semester, next couple semesters, I'm looking to be there more often. I'm working on arrangement to be there more full time. I'll still probably travel around a bit. I got job up in this area, so I might have to take some times off, but I'll
Yeah.
be able to spend more time on a daily basis down there. So, kind of maybe as we transition into the end here, I did want to kind of ask. We've talked about a whole spectrum of things, which is so awesome, but I also like to try to throw we've had some in there, but what I like to call making the safety brief. So, in the military, we have these briefs where things that have gone errant in the past, and they're making sure that things are safe and you don't do them again. A lot of times they come from funny stories.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to kind of shift a little bit. We got pretty deep there, and I'm grateful for it, but maybe there was a situation in Burning Man where someone was very self-expressing themselves, or even in your, any of your works where something that's just absolutely hilarious occurred, could have potentially been a tragedy, but it just all turned out just fine, and just something to laugh about later.
Oh, gosh. That is an immersive experience that's like a visual, emotional, and a spiritual kaleidoscope, and this will circle back to what we talked about earlier. I told you earlier that I helped a friend who experienced serious loss of her best friend.
Mhm.
And the beauty of Burning Man is sometimes that, people have this phrase, the Playa Provides. Sometimes you'll get this gift from the universe in some way that you couldn't ever have predicted it or expected it, but it just arrives and it does something to you. And for me, we've chatted about different things. And during the course of my life, I know I've self sabotaged myself and my lot in life in a lot of ways. And when I would experience losses, emotionally, I would just like go down the tubes, like I would not want to be around. I don't even know where that came from, but I just felt like that, it was just like stuff. No matter what I did and how much work I did, I always felt like I was working too hard at life, It wasn't as much fun as I expected it to be, even though I was doing things that people thought were cool or great or wonderful or whatever. And so I did this process with her, and she came out of it, having that wonderful feeling of, you have this loss, but at the same time, you see that that person that you love so dearly is still in your life and still with you. So it was a beautiful moment, right? And then some dude comes walking up to us and it's like a theatrical outfit with like chaps and like a cod piece and furry coat on. And he hands us a blinky button. It's dark at night, so you have these little buttons that you could put on that flash so you could tell if someone's walking or on a bicycle or whatever. So it's almost like a safety thing. So he hands us his blinky button and it says, choose life. Like right after dealing with this death stuff, I mean, you could not have staged this. He just
Wow.
walks up out of
Yeah.
nowhere and gives us this thing that said, choose life, And it blew my mind because when I came home and as I was driving home or whatever, I'm like, "Dude, you love life." I never could have said that before. It would have been just some bullshit thing that it came out of my mouth. But now I meant it, you know? I'm freaking 70, and it took me 70 freaking years to be able to say, "I love life." You know? I choose life. It was fucking
That's
beautiful.
that's beautiful, that's powerful, that's amazing. Wow, I think yeah, just all those things intersecting at that exact same moment is mind-blowing, but, I mean, there's a reason behind it, right? Serendipitous, whatever, you used that word before,
Totally.
but there
Totally,
is
yeah.
absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. So, we're wrapping up. I know you're a busy man and giving us a lot of your time, and I'm very grateful for it. At this time, I would like to just turn it over to you for the last word. Anything that you want to share, any paradigm shifts that you'd like to encourage, anything along those lines. And again, thank you so much for being on the show. Would love to hear what you've got there.
God, I guess it is, it sounds kinda trite, but just do it. Don't tell self-sabotaging stories to yourself. Like, if you wanna do something, it's your life. Go do it. Like, what's stopping you? Someone telling you, "Oh, I wish I could do that, but can't." Just ignore the noise, the chatter from other people, and you're the only one that's in your shoes and your pants or your skirt or your underwear, like, pull yourself up by your straps and go out there and do whatever you wanna do as long as it's not hurting anyone and you're enjoying it and you're learning. It's hard to envision not learning something every day, even if it's like, "Well, I don't wanna be doing what he's doing or she's."
Right.
So that's the moral of the story. Life's meant for living, and living is part of doing, and there's 3 conditions of existence: be, do, and have. Decide to be, do what you need to do to have the stuff you wanna have. And decide what that means too. Like, if you wanna have a great life, if you wanna have a creative life, then be, do, and have it. No one's gonna do it for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Those are tenets that I definitely need to always be revitalizing in my life. And I'm, again, so grateful to have you on the show. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you more this
Oh, yeah.
upcoming year.
Absolutely.
Thank
Really
you so
enjoyed
much.
it. You
Yep. Have a good one.
you too.
That was quite the journey. It was awesome conversation with Zen, going all the way from Burning Man and all the dusty deserts to the streets of Chicago. He's dropped some heavy wisdom on what it actually means to live this life we're fighting for, from the artist's journey and the struggle. So let's just pour one out this week for our debriefing cocktails. Three critical takeaways from artist, doctor, and visionaries in Unduda is one, be, do, have protocol. Zen closing with the framework that flips the script on how most people live. Most people think if I have the right gear or the right studio, then I can do the work and then I will be an artist. Zen says that's backward. The lesson that we can take away from that, you have to be the thing first, embody it. Then you do the work required to have required of that. And once you have done those two things, then you will have the result of those things that you were striving for. Be, do, have. The shift that we're taking from that is don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect circumstances. If you're a creator, start creating. If you want to be a leader, start leading. Second takeaway is the alchemy of feedback. We talked about critiques, whether it's a debrief after a mission or a critique in an art school. Zen compared feedback to the poison in Dune. It can kill you, or if you have the right mindset, you can transmute it into power. You have to know who you are first. If the critique doesn't match your truth, discard it. If it does, use it to evolve. But do not let a critic who hasn't walked the path destroy your vision. As Zen said, if you want to learn how to do something, go to someone who knows how to do it well. Seek your advice from them. And finally, choose life button. Zen shared that incredible story about grieving friend at Burning Man and how he was able to help them get through it, help them find that person is still with them and that they're still very much a part of their life, even though they're no longer living with us on this earth. And then right after that, powerful revelation set in for both of them. Someone walked by with a button, a light up button that said, choose life. We're all carrying trauma. We're all in this human experience and we've all faced the backlash from it. We all have the refusal of the call every single day, like Zen was talking about, in the form of debt, stress, doubt. But in every single microsecond, you have a choice. You can chew on the past and let it consume you, or you can look at the horizon and choose life. It took him 70 years to say, I love life and mean it. So my challenge is I need to do that a little bit sooner, and I hope you can too. As we move into our challenges of this next week, the challenges that I leave with you is Zen had that realization looking at the scrapers in Chicago, and that the bricklayers who built them left a piece of their soul in that mortar, even if no one knows their names. So, challenge for this week, look at the work you're doing, whether it's a spreadsheet, a construction project, raising your kids. Stop treating life as a chore that you have to get through. Treat it as a legacy. Put your stamp of existence on it, not for recognition, but because you are the creator. You create an effect.